discussion going into this match was the ability for Dawn to flank in these team fights, and now with that additional presence, he's no longer off in a side trying to prevent the Riven from joining in. He gets to be the one to join into a fight now.
So the initiative is swapped around. This time, Dawn is no longer the one who has to check either, but rather you've swapped positions. Basically, you're swapping the draft, right? The Jace pick from Pawn, now it's going to go over to Nian. I think this is going to make for a very interesting game. If Nova take this, it might just be a fall. Sorry to say.
There's a Lucian.
There we go.
Oh, was it Lucian? Or was
it Lucian solo, maybe. But Barry could also play that with DY.
The Cork is still up. They could potentially try to go for the Cork on the opposite side. I mean, Pan has been more supportive recently, but he has been playing Lucian as well.
So I do think it's a Lucian solo. It's going to be Lucian mid into Jace, I think.
It could be that, but also, you know, they've done it before where, you know, Berry has been able to flex it towards the bot lane as well with Nami in the bot side, the same thing as well. So I think they've done that in the semi-final, so they have that flexibility there. You know, I think Orianna can still play in the mid lane, but they can play in the bot lane. And there's the Echo. There you go. I called it.
And this is a great time to play it as well, because if you don't pick it on tree, it's going to get banned away on 4-5. So same question for me. What is Cherry going to play?
Another great thing about Nova now is they can just keep banning out junglers. More junglers banned. We already have 4 junglers banned.
It's so brutal.
They banned the Kha'Zix now. Cherry's champion pool and Cherry's tier list is going lower.
I genuinely think we're in a world where Cherry might just have to play the Riven jungle, because there's like no picks left.
True.
Right, and you're getting a little worried too if you're on Nova's side. Where's the AP damage going to come from? Sure, Ziggs was up, but if you didn't pick it there, then that could have gotten banned away as well. You're all one damage composition type. So we do have a little bit of a wrinkle that Nova seemed to be prepared for, and it's going to be more junglers getting taken away from Cherry here, getting deep in the champion pool, unless it is the Riven that is getting locked in.
So Remake is a player that has only specifically played AP champions down in the bot side. You know, hasn't played pretty much any AD carries at all. I'm expecting a Morgana pick probably here for Remake. Yes, it maybe doesn't work too well with the comp. You can Black Shield maybe Nyan on the
it's
Jace,
fine, right? You're
or
just
maybe on the top
for
side, or they just leave it for last pick and they
wow.
Nunu. So this is going to be very bot side. So this is going to be the Lucian Nami lane. Again, a very aggressive lane for Berry and DY. We saw it in the first game as well. They like to play aggressive. They like to push as well. And this is also a situation where Nunu could be the one snowballing into the lane, getting the early advantages, because Nunu is a very, you know, early game jungler. But it's the first time we see Nunu.
What is your 5P here? That's my question, because your 5P here could win you the game on the side of Nova. I feel like J-Team's draft.
I honestly think Morgana's good. I honestly think Morgana's really good.
Because they showed a Nunu. You just block every snowball.
You got Tidal Wave, you got Shockwave, you got the Nunu snowball as well. You got the Riven engage. Morgana is a perfect pick here.
Look, I'm going to be very real with you here, right? The Nunu just wants to snowball ganks in the early game. But he has a mid laner that gives him 0 prio into the Jace matchup. That gives Long all the time in the world to scale up. I think Nova have checkmate here.
I feel like we have a situation where it's going to be, you know, J-Team in the early game again with the early aggression, with Lucian bot side, with the Nunu as well. And again, it's just going to be Nova scaling into the Elder Dragon.
Final thought, Brandon?
I think J-Team absolutely have to, right? If they're not going to play for the exact composition they've drafted for, they're never going to get to play the game after that point anyway. This is their only chance here. It's about getting them a hit. Cherry needs to step up to the plate.
It's all about
very pointed draft here by Nova against J-Team. J-Team going deep in the champ pool with Nunu. Will it pay off? Let's find out as we send it back to the casters for game number 2.
Thanks, D-Gon. Thank you, D-Gon. And we are getting ready for game 2. And I know that the analyst desk definitely had a lot of things to say, so I want to kind of rephrase it here for both TJ and Riku looking at these two compositions here.
Yeah, for me, the J-Scene composition is one of the coolest comps I've seen in a while. If nothing else, it's original. It's about using that Nunu both as a frontline tank, but also as part of an engage cycle. You go in with the Nunu Snowball, you follow that up with Tidal Wave, you follow that up with Shockwave, with Riven Stun, any combination thereof that can start team fights and theoretically win them before the other team can press any buttons.
And this is just falls upon the usual Cherry special about the early game, having to roam, having to gank to get that early lead for the rest of the team.
Right, and they do need to get that early lead because compositions like the one J-Team are running rely on that initial engage being deadly. And over on Nova, they have tools to avoid that initial engage.
And one thing that is incredibly interesting is that we see double utility, Nami, Orianna, with a lot of healing and shielding, but it's an early game snowbally champion that they're gonna make sure that they raise. Not a Vayne, not a Kai'Sa.
It's about the Lucian.
It's about the Lucian early game.
And Barry and DY are doing a great job of trying to push that advantage early. They forced the exhaust out of Remake early on.
Nova need to play defense for the late game, but they do have the tools to reach it, right? This is the same thing as last game, except more explicitly, they know what they're doing. They have Galio, very good in a defensive teamfight. They have the Morgana, whose Black Shield will help them dodge those CC cycles. They have even Echo, whose ability to reset mid-fight will deny that deadly combo. It comes in, he gets dropped very low, he says, actually, let's take it again.
I know. And Yami as well, with what you talked about this TJ, with the shields and the engage that he provides, first gank of the game.
Cherry already trying to find an opportunity here to make the first gank possible.
Parallel
Long answers back, but he steps back into the parallel convergence. Huge stun onto Cherry, and the knockback from Neon might have sentenced Cherry down. It is first blood for Nova this time around.
Okay, I understand. I understand that you want to gank mid lane. You want to gank mid lane because Neon is super squishy. You have a lot of damage on paper as a Nunu and as Pan with a distance. But if you gank an Orianna lane at this point of the game, you have 0 damage. Versus if Long enters the fight, counter ganks you, you lose.
And they got low HP on both targets, but at the end of the day, J-Team down 2 kills during the early game on 2 of their key carries. It's going to be that much harder for Cherry to be a beefy frontline, and it's going to be that much harder for Pan to scale into his late game damage.
Yeah, imagine we're seeing already a sword on Neon's inventory, and all of that, if you kill Pan, who's left to deal the damage? Let's take a look at the replay once more. Parallel convergence at the edge of that area, gets the stun in, Neon knocks him out of the park, and then they get a double kill over here.
And you have to talk about the other side of this, which is, yeah, they did a really good job responding to the gank. I also think it was kind of stuffed by Pan. You're playing Orianna, you got a ton of damage, but that damage was distributed evenly amongst the 2 targets whilst Cherry was dying. Pan was unable to burst down a single target and paid for it dearly.
And right now, Pan is still paying for it. Like, look at Neon's damage on that one shock blast. Like, half HP already.
Well, Cherry says,
revenge!
Try once, fool me twice. Maybe looking for another opportunity.
No!
And Green, he tried to bring DY to the party, and they got the flash out of Neon this time around.
And the fact that they used the tidal wave, everything, nothing still in exchange.
Yeah, I mean, this is the only thing this composition can do, right? This is the only way they can win, is by getting Pan a gold lead, by playing through that CC combo like we talked about with the tidal wave into the Nunu snowball, and they're going to keep trying to force it. It's not working for them, and that is a very bad sign as the Nova gold lead grows.
And Long is bringing that advantage towards the Baron side of the map now, which means J-Team, if you're looking for an early snowball, it has to come through Barry and DY's lanes now.
But it's difficult. You're up against Remake and Yami, 2 defensive champions. All they do is wave clear. 2v2 a top side potentially, but they just back away. But that's the thing. You can push Remake and Yami onto their towers, but you cannot do anything unless DY lands a bubble, which he is constantly trying to juggle rotating mid lane and then babysitting Barry. So it's difficult to get this through.
Long's Echo roaming perfectly during the early game, finding that control of the mid lane against counter ganks, finding that control of the top side. This has been a pixel-perfect start for Nova, and as we get towards the late game, it's Long who gets scarier, it's Remake who gets scarier. This becomes a team that can fight so well on the back foot as the engage is trying to come into them. The Morgana can keep laying down the dark pools, kiting backwards, and Long can start to do massive burst damage onto carries like that.
And remember, Long was able to get a big quadra kill as well through icons. Again, this was a game where everybody decided to ban full 5 ban Long, and this is the Echo. This is what appeared.
Here we go, our first objectives of the game up. It will be the Rift Herald on the top side, the object of attention J-Team needed to get back into this game.
And one of the things that Cherry will have, despite the failed counter gank in the mid lane, he's playing Nunu, and this is one of the strengths that J-Team will be able to rely on throughout the game goes. With Consume, you add extra true damage, comboing with that with the Smite, you can outsmite Long at any part of the game.
And I think that's part of the decision-making that J-Team go through here. No, we don't have enough early game, so we're going to focus in and guarantee we get the Rift Herald. And Nova in response say, this is going pretty well for us. There's no reason to risk it for an objective we're probably not going to get. We're going to play the slow game. We're going to take the handshake trade, get that all-important Mountain Drake for the late game.
And I don't think they can defend against this one, though. Oh, actually, I changed my mind. They were able to defend.
WCK Rift Herald.
The WCK Rift Herald, no Ziggs to finish off that tower down.
But if you're looking at J-Team's game plan, it's kind of in ruins, right? Because the Orianna is supposed to be their late game damage. That's not happening. The Cherry is supposed to be their tanky frontline. That's not happening.
No.
So what do you play through at this point? Well, you hope Dawn and Barry, your two side laners who have gone kind of unattended this game, can pull out a miracle in the next 5 minutes or so before they're outscaled, before their damage is no longer relevant.
I think it's possible, because we've seen Dawn create flanks in the backline, and for that to happen, you have to open up the map even more, which means remove mid lane.
And a Barry almost got completely knocked out by Yami, who was waiting in the bush. Good Spidey sense there with the ward.
I want to bounce this to you, Mark, because you do play this matchup occasionally. How rough is it that Cherry is this far behind Long?
Honestly, TJ, if Cherry was playing any other champion, I would be crying and would want to AFK and go to the next game. But you're playing a tank. Like, that is the beautiful thing for J-Team this game. Because the front line is on Cherry's responsibilities this game. Tanks get a lot of stat efficiency out of tank items. They're relatively cheap compared to the rest of the carry items, and you will at least do your job in soaking damage. And Absolute Zero provides you an additional health shield on top of it, so it makes up for the fact that he is behind in gold.
And it's what's important as well is that you need to find these setups for Cherry to actually activate and utilize all of what you just said, Rafa. Team fights, they need dragon fights. But so far, Nova has been trading, has been avoiding them, and they're doing a good job.
I love that you highlight that, because that's exactly what Nova did a couple of moments ago, right? When the Rift Herald was up for grabs, they dodged it.
Oh, but it is the snowball that counter-ganks Long, but however, they've brought three members of the party, but Shockwave! Shockwave onto 3 is gonna send Nova into a conundrum, and they've got to retreat. The rest of the reinforcements have come through for J-Team. DY with a beautiful tidal wave cuts off the exit route for Nova. 3 have been wiped.
And that was J-Team's early game composition coming online, demonstrating what it's supposed to do. And the only question, as they try to get yet more gold off of the play, is it too late? Have Nova gotten late enough into this game that J-Team's power spike here won't matter?
Yeah, that counter gang was definitely amazing done by J-Team, right? And Pan's roam towards bot side was the big difference.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody walked into that death rush. Let's take a look at this again. It was a parallel convergence. It is going in. Okay, fine. 3v2 situation. But look at this play coming from Pan. Walks into 3. Big shockwave. Ba-boom.
Bam.
Bam.
And that's exactly what they needed to get, right? It not only finds them this team fight, but it also gets very important gold onto exactly the 2 players that we were talking about falling behind. Pan gets some gold, so he's a little bit bigger for a step towards that Rapidons over on the Orianna. And I would like to highlight that Cherry gets gold as well. And while everything you're talking about is true, it's possible to play tank junglers even when they're lower in gold. Having the extra gold so that you can be the team's frontline tank and not killable in this mid-late game is how J-Team are going to be able to win team fights.
Looking for another snowball here. If parts of Nova, like the Red Sea, the rest of the members of J-Team have to follow up here, right into the choke point. But look at Neon, approaching from the left side of the flank, keeping Barry at a distance, the main damage dealer alongside Pan. Dawn trying to frontline, but realizes the rest of the damage dealers were zoned off by Neon, so he could not capitalize and has to retreat from the fight.
There's so much poke here.
Long looking for another one. Parallel convergence doesn't get the stun down on anyone. It's a flash out of Pan, and J-Team are retreating from the river.
Really good combo there by DY and Barry to get Barry out of the fight when Neon threatened him, but there's the problem. Neon is scary enough to force Barry away. He won that 1v1, and that means that we are past the point where this Lucian can be a game-winning carry, and we are into the point where JT need to pray that Pan can win them team fights, because if he does not, they have no way back into this game.
Exactly. Look at Pan right now, almost finishing his Rabadon's death cap. Once he finishes that, that is the prime time where the pressure will shift towards Pan, where he lands an amazing shockwave once more. Barry right now, okay, Storm Razor, let's see fight part 2.
He's buying up as much gold as possible. You see that tome in his pocket, because they know that they need to fight here for this dragon. Here come J-Team for the Hail Mary to try and keep themselves in this game.
If they get vision, Cherry can always flash over, consume smite, and outsmite Long, but they give him no chance to do it.
It's risky. J-Team was lacking one member. Dawn was busy split pushing at the top portion of the map, and they couldn't even finish it just yet. We'll see if Nova decides to defend that. Looks like that's going to be a no, but Nova gathering a lot of these dragons so far, and this late game looks pretty good for them.
And Nova know that Dawn's up on the top side of the map, so they know they have a 5v4 anywhere else. Here they go with the Rift Herald for the far more valuable mid-turret. I think Dawn really caused trouble for J-Team there.
They're continuing to make the Rift Herald push down the mid lane. It won't knock out the second turret completely, but knocks down 2 plates, which makes the next push even easier for Nova to complete.
Okay, it's not obvious just yet. The gold lead is just pretty even so far. But when we look at the map state, Nova has been winning a lot, so we'll see how they can dive into the deeper ends of J-Team's jungle and further their lead and be more aggressive.
Right, that's the pressure for Nova right now. Okay, you have a pretty good late game scaling composition. The only thing that scares them at this point is Pan.
Yeah.
So, get into the jungle, take away gold, use the fact that Remake and Long can get out of danger to be a little bit riskier on the map. And when we come to team fights, the entire team fight is going to be about killing that Orianna.
And you definitely want to kill the Orianna if you are Nova. You know why, guys?
Why?
He's got a death cap.
There it is!
Death cap! Death cap!
Death cap!
We're sponsored by Death Cap.
Death cap responsibly.
And this will mean that there's a massive burst of damage available now for Pan, not just on his Shockwave, which is the big flashy spell, but also watch that ball traveling through the team fights and doing sustained damage.
Do I though? Yami?
Barry dove under tower right into 1v1 against Remake while Yami was focused on Pan and DY. The turret doesn't go down quite completely.
One thing to note, that top side is slowly pushing, so J-Team cannot take their time, or else Nova, if they win a fight, they're going to keep pushing more of these towers. As you can see, they want to defend right now.
Mid-turret controlled here barely by Nova. They keep it up on about a sliver of HP. And as we head towards this late game with a Nova lead, and Baron coming up on the map, it's really scary for J-Team. Their only hope is these 5v5 team fights.
But we're talking about Rabadon's death cap.
There's a big but.
There's a big but here. Rabadon's death cap also picked up by Long, so he's going to deal massive amounts of damage in this next 5v5. And how can J-Team basically dodge around that? That's the biggest question.
Well, that's the scariest part here, is we're talking about how you need to kill Pan. Nova have exactly the tools to do that, and they're hunting.
Nova have already secured entrance to the river. Knock up onto Cherry. Woo! Half HP.
Shockwave.
Absolute zero. Force out, but nice shockwave from Pan. And now forces the retreat from Nova.
You see the Orianna damage truly online there. Half HPing some of the tankier members of Nova. But that is not enough to win the fight. They need access to Remake, to Nyan, to Long in order to actually take a fight.
Imagine they bursted all their ults except Dawn, and they couldn't even find anything. Meanwhile, for Nova, they still got a lot of ults. They were able to burn and bait everything down without them consuming too much.
They do still got a lot of ults, and they're going to be trying to use them to chase down that backline. Remember, they only have one target. By contrast, Nova Esports have multiple players who are really scary in this late game, which is, of course, what makes Nova the better team in this late game.
And as you say that, right, we're looking at the item builds right now. Long, we talked about him, incredibly scary. Neon, more on that defensive split push. But look at Idze right now, having that Borg, having to be incredibly scary. Imagine Black Shield on him. Dominus, boom. Just destroy all of the squishy members from J-Team.
Bam. 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 Boom, bam.
And in contrast to the last game, J-Team don't have a lead to play with here, and they're in kind of the same situation at the 15-minute mark. In order to get back into this game, they cannot make a mistake. We cannot have a repeat of Dawn getting caught out in the side lanes. And we already kind of did with Dawn being up in the top lane while the rest of his team needed him to take a fight. Nova resetting now 30 seconds away from this Infernal Dragon.
It's not the Elder for either team, so it's not quite game-ending yet if one were to lose a fight, but stakes are high here.
Yeah, this is an objective you feel comfortable fighting for if you're either team. And so J-Team are going to play the fact that there are two objectives on the map. Try to force Nova into a disadvantaged position. Because if they can find an angle for all those stuns to land in sequence, that is the only way they get back into this game.
Exactly right. Absolute Zero, Shockwave, Tidal Wave. They have to layer all of these things to win.
And they need Dawn to get into the front lines to find those stuns. He's on a flank now.
Revving it up,
HP on the Dragon.
Got it.
Yami, good guy. Yami tanks up the snowball, ensuring that Cherry cannot get into the pit. Nova cleanly take the Dragon without any meaningful contest. J-Team are still pushing for any stragglers here. And it's a hero's entrance from Yami, being able to re-enter the fight, cutting them off. But Shockwave is huge! The bubble from DY follows up beautifully! And the rest of J-Team are able to get massive damage down on a remake, down on a long, Neon almost biting the dust, barely managing to survive.
I don't know if that's enough, Mark, but it is a window. It is a chance for J-Team to get back into this game because it is not just those 2 kills. It is instantly going to convert to a massive swing at this Baron. Yeah. Nova do not have a jungler on the board for 30 seconds.
And it's Nunu too. You can burn this down with Consume easily. You can take it up without any contest whatsoever from Nova. Baron swung over to J-Team.
Mid-turret taken, Baron taken, J-Team back in control?
It's such a good fight because I feel like, yes, Nova, they got the Dragon, but there was so much hesitation. Honestly, they didn't even need to fight this. All they had to do was run away. Totally understandable, the thought process on this one, but at the end of the day, if that Shockwave hits, boom! Absolutely massive into just chain CC, no escape. Long tried his best to attack the backline, eliminate Dawn, damage not enough.
I think Long missed targets in that fight, not hunting Pan, who very clearly is the only major source of damage here for J-Team.
Barry got J-Team through the early mid-game so that Pan could fly and these fights and single-handedly wipe out multiple members here on Nova.
But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. There's only a minute left on this Baron, and Dawn has gotten caught out again.
Long heard us talking smack on here on the casting desk. And the rest of Nova making the defense happen. 5-on-4 with Baron. Buff still on the side of J-Team for 45 seconds.
Yeah, this is the window that Nova has to take. They have to make sure that they don't lose more towers. They have to attack now while Dawn is gone for 30 seconds.
And none of these inhibitors are under threat, which means I think Nova have done it. They find a catch out on Dawn yet again. Too aggressive in the side lanes, nowhere near the rest of his team. And with that dead player, Nova are able to defend their inhibitors, basically reset the game to a neutral state where they have the advantage as the better scaling late game team.
And that's the sad part, right? J-Team worked hard for that Baron. They were able to get 2 picks off of Nova after that Dragon. And now they couldn't get value out of that buff due to that death.
Yeah, they did equalize the gold leads. They did get more money onto the Lucian. Is that value? I don't know. It's Saber's value.
Kind of hard.
Deal.
It is.
For the Lucian, this is one of those characters that does so well in the early game because the range disadvantage doesn't hurt him as much as when you get into the later parts of the game, where one step forward at the wrong time could be game-changing.
And that's why Nova should not, I repeat, should not fight in these compressed areas. They have to make sure that they're all scattered so the big shockwave doesn't come in coming from Pan. I know there is Yami's magic shield, but it's not going to help you versus an instantaneous shockwave.
So here we go, headed towards the 20-minute mark with Lucian scaling out of this game, falling out of this game. Neon maybe meeting him, but Long's catching up. Long's hitting his biggest power spike, so it's Remake.
Huh.
Neon with the Hole Breaker finally calls in Long with the Lich Bane empowered auto attack to knock down the turret with ease. Nova playing the turret splitting game.
They're playing that turret control game because they're setting up here. Oh, Cherry!
Cherry consumes smites it, but was it worth it? Gets completely caught out. Absolute Zero doesn't save you in that instance.
And this is critical. 12 seconds to Baron. This is not the time to not be in the game.
Yeah. Baron's spawning, and Cherry steps up where he knows there are multiple enemy players to fight for a blue buff. And it has just cost J-Team their chance back into this game. They're going to need to do something truly incredible here.
4,000 HP, 2,000 HP. It is secured by Long, and the Shockwave is only clipping the frontline members. This parallel convergence separates J-Team from its frontline. Yeetsit and Dawn battling out as the frontline members. Huge bubble from DY clips the members of Nova, but they got what they wanted in the Baron.
Man, Pan is doing a scary amount of damage. It just is not enough to contest that Baron. Of course it isn't. They will have a chance to contest this Elder, though, and maybe that's J-Team's Hail Mary. They do have a respawn from Cherry right now. He'll be racing across the map.
What the damage, Long?
Oh, Long is about to single out Pan here. Oh! Long can do no wrong when it comes to assassinating crucial members of J-Team.
It's so good because you can tell Pan wanted to dodge the parallel convergence, but in the end, the Chrono Break is there.
A deep dive now against the inhibitors. Now for a 2-game lead in this grand final. Nova have a minute left on the Baron, and they run the map with the Elder Ocean Dragon up.
Dawn and Barry are the only members alive, but I don't think there's any way they can walk into that pit and contest. It's already burned down.
Let's take a look at this again because this is incredible. Long's positioning here, Pan being the biggest threat in this late game. Lands some auto attacks, big boy damage. Look at Pen, slides the parallel convergence, no problem because the Chrono Break is there.
And this the second time this game, the third time this series, that Long has found a critical pick in the late game, finding Dawn in side lane twice, finding Pan overextended here, and maybe even 3 times, as he did moments ago, find Cherry with his stun combo as well. We've talked about Long being the hero of Nova. Here we are seeing a different form. And it's not just about his team fights, it is about his understanding of the map and his punishment whenever J-Team step out of line.
And it's crazy to think when we look back at Nova's semifinal series against FPX, Long was shut out of the game consistently, and it called upon the laners to step up. This time around, Long repays the favor as Yeetsit in a 1v2, buying as much time. Yami comes in with the hero's entrance, but the rest of Nova are getting work done on the bottom side of the map. Neon's already on the base. Long is hitting the Nexus. Neon's on the Nexus. Game 2 belongs to Nova Esports.
What a crazy finish because it felt so even. But up until that point where Cherry unfortunately fell in battle, getting the blue buff, and then Long finding a pick on Pan in the mid lane.